The desert had already shifted its shape around them. What had begun as a single decision, a man choosing not to leave, had unraveled into something far larger than either of them could see. The riders were no longer distant figures in the dust. They were here now, inside the same narrow stretch of land, moving with patience and precision. One of them lay still somewhere behind. Another had fallen moments ago. But the hunt had not slowed. If anything, it had sharpened. And just before the silence fractured again, Leah had spoken a name she should not have known.
Kai.
Kai remained low behind the rock, his body aligned with the uneven ground, every movement reduced to the smallest possible form. The air had changed. The wind no longer moved freely. Instead, it pressed inward through the narrow passage, carrying dust that softened the world into something unstable and uncertain. Light bent against the rock walls, scattering into muted tones that made distance impossible to judge. It was the kind of environment where mistakes happened quickly and consequences followed immediately. He did not rush. He did not react blindly. He listened. There was still one rider positioned somewhere ahead, maintaining pressure from a distance, controlling the open angle of the pass. The other, silent now, was somewhere behind the rocks, moving without sound, closing the space inch by inch. That was the one Kai focused on. The one he could not see was always the greater threat. Behind him, Leah shifted. The sound was subtle, but different from before. There was intention in it now. Her breathing, though still uneven, had gained strength. It was no longer the fragile rhythm of someone slipping away. It was the uneven but determined breath of someone returning. Kai turned slightly, just enough to see her without exposing himself. Her eyes were open. They moved slowly at first, unfocused, searching for something stable in a world that no longer made sense. Dust clung to her skin, her hair tangled and streaked with the remnants of whatever she had escaped. For a moment, confusion held her expression, soft and uncertain. Then her gaze settled on him, and something changed. It was not the startled recognition of a stranger. It was not fear. It was something else, something that suggested she had expected him. Kai felt it immediately, though he did not show it. "You shouldn't be awake," he said, his voice low and controlled, cutting cleanly through the tension without rising above it. Leah tried to answer, but her voice failed her at first. Only a breath escaped, dry and weak. She swallowed, forcing her throat to cooperate, gathering what little strength she had left. "They're close," she said, the words barely holding together. Kai's eyes remained steady on her for a moment before shifting back toward the edge of the rock. "That's already been established," he replied calmly. Her head moved slightly, her gaze drifting past him toward the shadows where the rock broke the light. "No," she said again, more firmly this time despite the strain. "Closer than you think." The words had barely settled when the sound came. A footstep. Not loud, not rushed, but unmistakably near. Kai moved instantly. His body turned before the thought fully formed, his gun already raised, his focus narrowing to a single point of expectation. For a fraction of a second, there was nothing but dust drifting through thin light. Then a shift. A shadow cut across the edge of the rock. Kai fired. The gunshot exploded through the narrow passage, its echo slamming into the rock walls and returning in fractured waves. Stone splintered where the bullet struck, fragments scattering outward. The figure behind the rock moved just in time, slipping away from the line of fire. Too close. Closer than he had allowed for. The hidden rider had closed the distance almost completely. Before Kai could adjust, another shot rang out from the front. The sound cracked sharply, followed by the impact of the bullet striking near his position. Dust burst upward, filling the air and reducing visibility even further. They were pressing him now, front and rear. A coordinated approach designed to compress space, to remove options, to force him into a mistake. Kai shifted back toward Leah in one smooth motion, lowering himself beside her. "Can you move?" he asked. She tried to push herself up, but her body trembled under the effort, her strength failing almost immediately. "Not far," she admitted, her voice thin but steady. Kai gave a small nod. That was enough. He didn't need more. He looked out again, recalculating. The riders were not rushing. They were advancing slowly, deliberately, confident in their position. They believed they had control of the situation. That belief was something he could use. Kai reached down and adjusted Leah's position, pulling her deeper into the shadow cast by the rock. The darkness would not hide her completely, but it would make her harder to see, harder to target. "Stay here," he said quietly. Her hand moved suddenly, catching his wrist. It was weak, but deliberate.
They will never
"You don't
stop.
understand," she said, her voice urgent despite its fragility. "They won't stop." Kai looked at her, holding her gaze for a brief moment. "Neither will I," he replied. He pulled free and moved. Instead of remaining in place, Kai shifted along the rock wall, keeping low, using the uneven terrain to break his outline. His movement was controlled, almost patient, as if he were part of the landscape itself rather than something moving through it. The rider ahead adjusted immediately, tracking the change in position. Predictable. Kai continued until he found a narrow opening between the rocks, a place where he could see without fully exposing himself. He settled into position and waited. He slowed his breathing, counted the seconds, listened for movement. The sound of footsteps returned, faint but distinct. The hidden rider was circling, trying to complete the flank, trying to close the space from an angle Kai could not easily defend. Kai adjusted his stance slightly, angling his body for a cleaner shot. The moment came quickly. A shadow crossed the opening. Kai fired. This time, the shot found its mark. A sharp sound broke through the air, followed by the unmistakable collapse of a body hitting the ground. Silence followed. 2 riders down. But the silence did not bring relief, because the last one did not react. He did not rush forward in anger. He did not retreat. He disappeared. Kai's eyes narrowed slightly. That made him the most dangerous one. The wind picked up again, pushing more dust through the pass. The air thickened, turning visibility into something unreliable. Shapes blurred, edges softened, and the distance between objects became impossible to judge. Kai moved back toward Leah. She was watching him now, her awareness sharper than before. There was something in her expression that had not been there earlier, something deeper than fear.
"Listen.
"You knew my
you don't have
name,"
much
Kai
time.
said.
You must follow my instructions."
It was not a
exactly.
question.
The-
Leah hesitated, and in that hesitation something revealed itself. Not through words, but through the way her expression shifted, the way her eyes moved as if searching for something to hold on to. "I heard it," she said finally. The answer came too quickly, too easily. Kai did not respond. He did not challenge her. Not yet. A distant sound broke the moment. More riders. Faint, but unmistakable. They were still some distance away, but they were coming, and they would not stop. Leah heard them too, and her expression changed again. This time, the fear was different. It was not confusion. It was certainty. "They're not going to stop," she said quietly. "This isn't about you." Kai looked out toward the shifting haze beyond the rocks. "I know," he said. Another shot rang out suddenly, closer than before. The last rider had moved again, faster than expected. The bullet struck the ground near Leah, sending dust into the air. Closer than any shot before. Kai reacted instantly, pulling her down, positioning himself between her and the open space. Another shot followed. Closer again. He could not hold this position. Not with more riders approaching. Not with visibility collapsing. Not with an unseen enemy already inside the space. Kai made his decision. "We're moving," he said. Leah looked at him, her strength barely holding. "You won't outrun them," she said. Kai shook his head slightly. "I'm not trying to." He helped her to her feet. She could barely stand, her weight leaning heavily against him, every step uncertain. But staying was not an option. Kai guided her along the rock wall, moving deeper into the pass instead of back toward open ground. It was not the obvious choice, but it was the only one that changed the. Behind them, movement broke through the dust. The last rider emerged, closing the distance. Kai did not look back. He kept moving forward. Ahead, the pass narrowed further, the space tightening into a darker corridor where light struggled to reach. The air grew heavier, the ground more uneven. It was a place where visibility would collapse completely. A place where numbers mattered less. A place where control could shift. Leah stumbled. Kai caught her before she fell, pulling her forward, adjusting his grip without breaking stride. Behind them, the sound of hooves echoed as more riders entered the pass. Time was gone. Kai pushed forward into the deeper shadow between the rocks. The light faded behind them. The world narrowed. The air thickened. And for the first time since this began, Kai stepped into terrain he could not fully read. Behind him, the hunt continued. Closer. Relentless. Unstoppable. The desert was no longer just a place. It had become a trap.